Hey guys, pleasure to see you again.
You too.
Hi, Shahab. Thank you so much for coming on the stage. Um, so this is just a really friendly discussion about joint replacement, hip replacement, knee replacement, even shoulder maybe. I was just wondering, is anyone here has anyone here experienced anything like a joint replacement, or even do you have a close member of family maybe who has undergone the joint replacement operation by any chance?
Well, if I have a chance to speak, I would want to tell you that, my expertise in biomechanics is not in the field of implants, hip and knee implants, but when I was in the master, we have a course about orthopedic biomechanics, and in that course, the description of the course was that the course was concentrated on the TKR surgeries or total hip replacements. I have some a little bit experience of joining the surgery rooms in 𝕃𝕚𝕝𝕜's hospital
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
with Dr. Baghdadi. I hope you know Dr. Baghdadi, Dr. Surush Baghdadi, the son of Dr. Taghiz Baghdadi, the head of the orthopedy of Tehran University of Medical
Right, very
Sciences.
interesting. Thank you, Shao, for sharing. I can see Kojo is here. Hi, and thank you so much for joining this room. I'm very excited to have you here in this room as well. Would you like to, I don't know, just maybe introduce yourself, just see, so everyone can know how and why you are also in this room, interested in this topic, please? Thank you.
I can. Thank you very much for inviting me up to speak. My name's 𝕃𝕚𝕝𝕜. I'm a renowned fitness, lifestyle and wellbeing coach. I'm known as the celebrity coach of a gentle approach because I've worked with Beyonce, David Beckham, Jennifer Lopez, Emma Bunton, Tony Cherie and 𝕤𝕒𝕝𝕜, and I coach for Adidas, Nike, Lululemon, plus Chelsea and Brighton Hove Albion football clubs. And I used to be a professional dancer, and because of playing sport and dancing and doing yoga and fitness and personal training, I had my first hip replacement in 2018, and so I was 53, 54, and when I had the hip replacement, when I woke up, my right foot was at right angles, like what we call flat turnout in ballet. And so I said to the nurses, I think there's something wrong with my hip because my leg is flat turned out, and I tried all my professional career to have my hip turned out that far, and it's not. And now the surgeon told me I wouldn't be as flexible after my operation, and now I've got flat turnout on my right and I haven't got it on my left. And then they said to me, no, it's just because of the medicine, and because you had all your muscles are relaxed. And I knew there was something wrong. And then when the physio came and tried to get me to stand up, I couldn't stand up, and every time I went to stand up, I fainted. After 3 days, they took me down to get my air, and the lady said, the radiographer told me, have you been in a car crash? And I said, no. And they said, well, the only time we see hips like this is if you've been in a car crash. I said, this is how I came out after my operation. So they did the x-ray, and they found that my hip was dislocated and that no one had noticed. And so then I got rushed to another hospital, and then they put it back in, and then I was in hospital for another 3.5 weeks because when I was with I kept fainting. I I split my forehead open and broke my front tooth, and I was in the hospital for another 3.5 weeks because my liver started failing because of all the drugs and the trauma that my body was under until they changed that, and then it came out. And then when I went out, within a week I was back in because I had is it called prosupination, when your hip goes out and comes back in? So yeah, I've had quite a lot of trauma with hips, and myself, Tony, and 2 of my other friends, that we've had 10 hip replacement operations between us. We're all when we discuss all things hip related. So that is why I'm in this room.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Kojo. It does really mean a lot to me personally as well, for having you here in this room. So you basically, what people here are doing is supporting the community of joint replacement patients or people who have undergone the operation, which is a very heavy operation as well. So the recovery takes a lot of time and effort. So thank you so much for sharing, and please stay with us. We're going to come back to you with some questions from your experience, maybe something you can share with the community. Thank you. Okay, Shakiba, sorry, I can see we jumped over Mersa, your friend there. I think Shakiba is not available. Anyway, so Mersa, can you share with us why you're here, and can you introduce yourself basically? Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for asking me. I basically saw Shakiba in this room, and then I saw it's about hip and knee replacement, and I thought it's a great subject because you don't really hear about it often, to be honest. I'm a pharmacy student. I'm a 3rd-year pharmacy student in the UK, and I'm interested in cases like this, and like Kojo said about how the medication kind of affected his liver, and about people who go under such a heavy kind of surgery, and the recovery and the medication and all of that. I'm really interested to know about the cases more.
Thank you so much, Mersa. Thank you for sharing. And we have another member here on this stage. Sorry, I don't want to wrongly pronounce your name. Could you please introduce yourself? Sorry. Thank you. Rajdeep. It's
Hi,
so nice to
Shahrzad.
meet
It's
you. Thank you.
You too. I think I just saw that kind of title of this group, and I jumped in just kind of get people's perspective, because I've got parents. My dad, who's kind of should have had knee replacement surgery a while back, but he's been delaying, so now he's kind of severely having, I think after lockdown, he's not been mobile as much. It's kind of, I think, really deteriorated. And I often hear stories kind of some amongst relatives are kind of reluctant to take surgery. So I just wanted to kind of hear about different people's perspectives and experiences, how it's been, if it's kind of improved their lives afterwards, recovery times and so forth. And that's why I jumped in. So nice to be here with you guys.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Definitely, yes. Please do stay with us, because we are going to dive into that. Basically, we are going to discuss everything about when is the best time to have the operation, when or what may be the best way of just going through the recovery. And Kojo, I'm sure, can definitely share some very good points of his personal journey as well. So yes, I was just checking if anyone else is in the audience. So if you go down the list again, Shakiba, is there anything? Oh, she's not available. Shahab, is there anything you'd like to add to what was previously mentioned?
Nothing very much about, but I heard from Kojo that he had some of the experience about hip replacement operation. Yes, Kojo?
Yep, that's right. I've had a hip replacement.
Yeah. One of the questions during my education that I have sometimes in my mind is, but of course, sorry about the awkward English I have because I live in Iran, firstly. And one of the questions that I really wondered in the time that I was a student, that what is the time of the rehabilitation or the rehabilitation time of the patients after the operation, or what is the time of the post-operating for the hip replacement or knee replacement? How is your experience? What was your experience during that time after the operation?
Well, I'd say, standard wise, there's different stages. So you've got 6 weeks, and then you've got 12 weeks, and then after 12 weeks you've got 2 years. So you've got the stuff, there's stuff. If you had no complications, I had complications, but if you had no complications and you do the basic exercises, you should be up, walking and able to get dressed and walk up and down stairs within 3 days, and then you should be out and home, and then you have to be really careful for 6 weeks, and then after 6 weeks they'll give you more exercises to do, and then once you get to 3-month point you're pretty safe, and then you've got the 90-degree restriction taken off. There's lots of new ways of doing it, and Tony, my friend, he didn't have any restrictions. He didn't have the 90-degree restriction because of the way they did it. And when you get to 12 weeks, you're pretty safe, and you can start going above 90 degrees in your movements and things like that. So for me, and obviously because I'm a personal trainer and a yoga teacher, football coach and blah, 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 I know a lot about the body and having been a professional dancer, and I worked... When I was going, most of the physios were saying, they would just tell me little bits, and then they'd say, well, you work out all the exercises, tell me what muscles I've got to do, and then I would do it myself. And then from that, after 3 months, I was doing yoga, and it was hard to move from one position to another, and it felt like my hip would snap. So I would hold... Usually in yoga you either hold something for 1 breath or 5 breaths. So I used to hold every exercise for 10 breaths after I'd done all my hip replacement exercises. So I designed a bit of hip rehab exercises, a bit of yoga, and a bit of then normal body weight strengthening, squats, lunges, bridge it, all things for your bump, your glutes and your quads and hamstrings, all the muscles around there. And I would say that then after a year, and this means I'm talking about every day and practicing. I used to practice walking, walking perfectly for 10 paces in front of a mirror, making sure my hips were exactly in line, my feet are parallel, balancing on one leg, all that sort of thing. I do that for a year, and then my surgeon told me it would take 2 years to get back. And then after a year, I started pushing it a bit more. And I would say, 2 years, now my right hip is stronger than my left. And I'm doing football coaching, I'm kicking a ball. I can't kick it as hard or as far as I could, but I can kick a ball, 40, 50 metres. I'm practicing running now I can sprint for 10 metres. I've been doing that for the last 4 weeks. So I practice a little bit every day technically, and I want to I've started horse riding again. Surgeon told me that after 2 years I'd be able to do everything that I could before I had the injury, and I'd say I've found that to be true. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Kojo. That's such an inspiration. Honestly, the things that you say you are able to do, I mean, it really, because of your background as well, but because the things that you're saying, like playing football, for example, or running and all of that, is the things that generally doctors suggest not to do, like for a good amount of time, after the operation. So what you're explaining there about how you can do all of these things now, all of these sports, that's really fantastic.
When I say football, I'm demonstrating. I wouldn't play a game of football because then someone's going to tackle me and collide. So I'm coaching football, so I'm demonstrating how to kick it and shooting. But I wouldn't play combat football because I think that would not be sensible.
Exactly. Thank you. And Rajdeep, did you have any special or anything that's on your mind? Any questions that maybe this wonderful group of people can help you with about knee replacement, maybe?
I think, coaches, thank you for sharing your experience. I think my parents are a little bit older, so I think they've heard a few scare stories. So my dad, I think, should have. I think he was down to he had a date 2 years ago and he delayed it. And I think with lockdown and being less mobile, he's kind of, I think, now severely kind of debilitated. And he knows he's got to have surgery. So my question was really about your kind of recovery post 6 weeks, obviously, in terms of I think he's older. He's not also open to. He's never done yoga or any kind of such exercise. So he's looking at kind of what would need to be kind of for rehabilitation to kind of get back to normal. Obviously, I understand it's a 2-year period, and that makes sense. What kind of therapies can somebody use once they've had surgery to kind of recuperate and to recover and to become almost kind of to work to that phase of to fully mobile, to back to where you were or near to back to where you were prior to surgery?
Sure. Yes,
Would you
please.
like me to answer that for you? Sorry for hogging the things, but I'm possibly the only person that's had a hip replacement in here, and I'm a personal trainer and specialist in rehabbing from hip replacements. So it's a case of exactly what you said there. My surgeon said you can get back to what you were doing before you had the injury. So for your dad, whatever he was doing before he needed a hip replacement is what you're getting back. So yeah, I wouldn't advise someone to try and do something new. I wanted to get back to doing yoga and doing football coaching and things because that was my job. But for your dad, I'm guessing he wants to be able to walk without pain, to be able to put his clothes on, to be able to put his socks on, be able to put his shoes on, be able to get in and out of a bath, to be able to sit down in a chair and stand up. I'm guessing these are the things that he would like to be able to do with confidence and without pain. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's definitely something. Yes, he's not going to be any exercise just to get back to normal, to kind of be able to sort of look after himself without any support. Yes, definitely. That's what I was looking to get back to.
Yes, so then it's just a case of, like, the first sort of exercises they give you is you're lying on the bed and you just got to be able to lift your leg up straight and just lifting it up, which will engage your quads. Then they might be with your feet together, being able to slide your foot sideways, and you're doing things like that. Then when you've got strong enough to be able to stand, and then you learn to walk with the Zimmer frame. I'd say and then you learn to walk with 2 crutches, then 1 crutch, then a walking stick, and then eventually no walking stick. I'd say it's very important to be keeping your hips square and don't rush from going from 1 crutch, because then you develop a limp, and where you've got 1 crutch, your shoulder is going to be higher on that side, which means your hip may be lifting up, so you're out of a line. And then the more you practice being out of a line, the more your body's going to compensate, and you probably get injuries on the other side. So I would say key thing is looking in the mirror and just doing little really simple exercises. Like once I'd got to the point where I could stand up without a walking stick, literally just with my left foot in front of the other, step forward onto my right foot, then step forward back so my right foot's behind, and just doing that walking motion but not moving, just forward and back, 10 times on that side, then switch to the other leg. Then walking in your room 5 paces towards the mirror, turn round, 5 paces back. When you're looking in the mirror, looking to see, am I walking with a limp, and are my hips in alignment, which is quite hard for a normal person to do that's not used to. That's what the physio would. When you go to the physiotherapist, they will get you to do those.
Thank you, Coach. I appreciate that.
But I'd say if you want to follow me on Instagram and send me a private message, this is something I'm very, very passionate about, and yeah, I'm happy to speak to or take this further offline. Yeah, it's something I'm very, very, very passionate about and helping. That because I found and we found, there's myself and my 3 friends, because we found, like Tony, who's a physiotherapist, everyone for years, the person that he phoned up when he'd had his operation was me. He was like, you know more than the surgeons, you know more than the physios, just because you've had a hip replacement. Your surgeon hasn't had a hip replacement. Your physio hasn't had a hip replacement. Most of them are like working for you're not going private, working for the NHS, they're probably about 23 and they've never had it. Of course they haven't had a hip replacement. Surgeon hasn't, your doctor hasn't. So they don't actually know what it feels like mentally as well, because it just feels a bit weird and strange, and you're asking each other. We phone each other all the time going, do you feel like this at this moment, or do you feel like that? Another tip I would say is going to the heated swimming pools. That was really, really good. If you can get access to that, because you can walk in the water with the heat, and there's not taking any strain. So I found that very, very. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a heated swimming pool.
I think I like what you've shared. I think it's about the mental resilience as well, and I know it's almost a case of like it can be off-putting to people, especially when you hear scare stories, which I think my dad had shared with him, even from the doctor's almost disclaimer that yes, it should go well, but there could be complications. And I think it's actually preparing yourself for what to expect and being realistic, and almost willing your body to recover as well from that point, that being realistic and then actually thinking, actually, I've got to get better, I've got to input into this. I think that's kind of key as well. I love that you shared that as well. So thank you again. I think I already follow you on Clubhouse, but I will DM you as well. That'd be great.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much for explaining that, Kojo. It's really exactly like you said. That is one of the purposes of this club that I started as well, just for us to be able to find one another and just share our stories, so we know that we are not on our own in this journey of hip or knee replacement. We need that community to be able to talk to, and just even if it's just to tell people how we feel, because that helps mentally as well. Just one thing I want to add about knee replacement is that after the operation, we basically the focus is on 2 main things. One is to gain back the range of motion, obviously, because of the knee joint being very having that range of motion back is critical, and also being able to go back to the normal life that one would have prior to the surgery as well. So like Kojo also mentioned, swimming or walking in a swimming pool would definitely help with that. Just keeping active in general after hip and knee replacement really does help with recovery, I think. Okay. Yeah.
I have a question about this. I want to know if joint replacement is something that could probably go wrong or not be effective and not work after a while. Like, is this something that you could say, okay, so I've done this and now I know it's not working? Is that something that could happen? And I have one more question, and that is, how developed are these replacements? Like, theoretically, are they capable? Are they able to like make the person capable to get back to the 100 potential of whatever abilities they had, or is this going to take you back to somewhere close to that? Are you going to is this, I mean, is this 100% effective, or like it's gonna help you 70% to get back to your range of motion or whatever? Those are my two questions, Shahrzad, if you know, or
Yeah,
anybody
thank you
else.
so much, Shakiba, for that. Yes, so unfortunately, like every other major operation, unfortunately, things can go wrong, and it can be due to several reasons. Surgical technique could be not clear, maybe, or the surgeon. There are different factors to add in that, but when we started this room half an hour ago, Kojo did explain his experience of yeah
Oh
yeah
yeah, yeah,
no
you're right.
so
I'm sorry, I
yes,
forgot about that. Yeah.
unfortunately, yes, sorry, go on, Kojo.
Yeah, it definitely can go wrong, and I had everything that could go wrong. Well, not every, a lot of things that could go wrong. Like the others in our group, they were all out in 3 days or 5 days, and I was 3.5 weeks, and none of them, they didn't have I had a dislocation once, and then I had the prosupination or whatever it's called twice, and had to stay in hospital for another 2 days. I had the liver, there was nothing wrong with my liver, so I had that. I've got a scar on my forehead. I've had to have a new front tooth, all which would cost me money. One of my clients was 𝕃𝕗𝕝𝕜, and when I went to see her, she said, "I think you should sue the NHS." And I said, "I don't really want to do that." And she said, "No, but you have to do that so that people know that there's been mistakes and that people can be checked." And then it wasn't my surgeon's fault that I had the dislocation. It was he explained that when they transfer you from the operating table to the next trolley to take you back to your ward, that if it can drop you down, and that drop, and you've had all the muscle relaxing drugs, it can pop out. So that's quite normal, but they can pop it back in when you're still unconscious. The problem with mine was no one actually spotting that they dislocated my hip. They probably dropped me,
Yeah.
and then went, "Oh, no one will notice."
Oh wow.
Yes, thank you so much
Yeah.
for that. So yes, Shakiba, and there is
So that's mostly because they didn't do it, like they didn't do the right job. It was their fault. So let's say if that doesn't happen, and the operation will be done correctly, and like they take care of the patient after the operation, like monitor things, and actually not like Kojo's case where they didn't realize something had happened. So it should work, and what I mean is or could it work for a while and then not work after a while? That's what I mean.
yeah, I can answer that, but Kojo, did you want to add anything?
No, I was going to let you answer and then
Yeah,
ask and
definitely.
then say a
So
few things.
yes, Shakiba, things can go wrong. Like a couple of weeks after the surgery, a while after, and 10 years down the line, things that can go wrong are like infection can occur, or the patient's body may react to the material, and metal poisoning and things like that could happen. Um, the bone around the implant could get weaker if the implantation is not done correctly and the alignment is not right. And then when the bone gets weak, then that's when fracture occurs, which needs another surgery. The patient could not be very careful with the way they bend their knee or hip, and dislocation can happen. So yes, there are many ways, unfortunately, hip and knee replacement could go wrong. Um, yeah, Kojo, please, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the things that can go wrong, well, from my friend Neil's example, where he's had 6 hip replacement operations, and obviously you've only got 2 hips, so that means things have gone wrong. And I don't think he'll mind me sharing this story. On his case, he'd had both hips replaced, and then he was out, and I think he was dancing at a wedding or something, and he went to do a turn, and his foot stayed on the floor, and where he used the force to turn, the hip replacement stayed in place, but then it broke the femur bone. And so then he shattered his femur bone. So then they repaired that. Then there was that infection from that. And then recently he had basically got an infection in his bone, and they had to take the whole hip replacement out. He was in surgery for 7 hours. They were gonna do it in two operations, but they opened him up, took out the metal pole, took that out, and stitched and cleaned everything up, stitched him up, then changed all the surgery equipment, reopened him, put in a new replacement, all new stuff and all pins, and his scar is from his bum down to his knee. And I've seen pictures of it open when they're doing the operation, because I'm interested in it, and it's not a pretty sight. And then they cleaned him up. So you can get infections. The hip replacement can't work. Sometimes your leg's longer than the other. Might not work. And I think what Tony always recommends is that when you see your surgeon, you ask for their success rate. They will, how many failures has there been? Patients you've had, how many infections have you had? And they have to give you that information. And a lot of time we're scared to ask those questions, or we don't think to ask those questions. And then you can, obviously, if someone's got a high failure rate, you're going to think, maybe I won't try that with theirs. I went to a surgeon up here in the Highlands, and he was doing, I wanted to be able to do everything I could do before. He was doing it for, thinking of an older person that might just want to sit up and walk. So he told me my flexibility was going to be less than I already had when I was injured. When he sold it to me, the only thing, and he told me all the risks involved and everything, the only thing that was gonna be of benefit to me was it wasn't gonna hurt anymore. And I said, you know what? I've been a professional dancer. My body's hurt all my life. I'd rather take that risk and not. So I said, I'm not having surgery with them. So I took my time to find another surgeon. And again with Tony, he spent a lot of time looking for the right surgeon and doing all the research necessary. And that's what I would say is really do your research on the surgeon, and especially Rajit, with your parents. Ask those sort of questions. What's your success rate? What's your dislocation rate? What's your infection rate? And then you can make an informed decision. I'm going back to your earlier thing of, I don't think there's one that gives you 100% what you had before. I can do a lot of what I can do before, but I've not got the flex. I'm talking from a yoga point of view. I've not got the flexibility that I used to have yet, and there's certain things that I was aiming to get, like yoga lotus position. I'm never even going to attempt to try and do that, because I think that's not realistic.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Shakib's second question was answered there. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, exactly. And great advice on checking with the surgeon. I wouldn't think that, like, I'm not in a situation where I need a replacement, but it's good to know, like, it's it's great advice, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask our doctor or surgeon, like, what are the risks of failure, and how well they've done in the past in their job. So yeah, I'm glad that you shared that with us.
Yes,
Thank you.
you wanted to add something?
I just want to ask for permission of something. I don't know how far this room talks about the physiology of the hip and knee replacement, so by all means stop me if it's like going far from the subject and what you have in mind. But I wanted to know about the experience of kind of like the pharmacology aspect of it and the medications and the experience you have while taking the medications, if there's, because I would guess there might be a lot of pain medications involved, maybe immunosuppressants involved. So I just want to see if there's anything in that
Yes,
era.
I would definitely pass this to Koja as well, but just to start it off.
Yeah, no, obviously, if you've had a hip replacement, it puts you in the best position to be able to talk about all these things. So for pain relief, and this is a big one, recently in the last few weeks in our room, we've been spending all our time on the whole pain question. How much pain should you have? What's your relationship with pain? What's good pain? What's bad pain? Yeah, pain is a topic we are very passionate about. So I would say for me, when they were putting the morphine, after you've had the operation, the morphine was a lifesaver. And I was putting, you get into, they say you've got allowed to have a certain amount, and then you just either press the button and they give it to you, and immediately you're in bliss. And obviously it's quite addictive, and having morphine in hospital, you realise why people become heroin addicts, because it not only got rid of the pain, but it just felt amazing. So that for me was a positive effect for the sort of week after or whatever. But then because I had to have two traumatic sort of big experiences within 5 or 6 days, that probably had a lot to do with my liver rejecting it. And then the codeine, it was only when they got me off the codeine and put me on ibuprofen that my liver started recovering. For me, when I first had, before my operation, and they put me on painkillers, I found they made my stomach bloated, they made me constipated, sorry for going into graphic detail, and they affected my mental state. So quite soon I was like, and I read up about all the side effects, and I was like, I don't like how it's making my body feel. I don't like having a bloated stomach. I'm quite vain. I've got a six-pack and didn't want a bloated stomach. I didn't like the way it made me feel mentally, and I definitely didn't like being constipated. So I soon stopped doing that and was like, I'd rather deal with the pain naturally. Then on one of my birthdays, I don't condone drugs and things like that, but one of my friends said, it was the end of the day and I was in agony and no painkillers had worked, and he said, do you fancy a toke on a spliff? And I said, no thanks. He goes, go on, it's your birthday. So I said, all right then. I took one toke on a spliff and the pain went away. So from that point on, for myself, and I was perfectly open with the doctors, I myself took marijuana for pain relief, and I felt that worked. Since then and afterwards, been getting into learning about CBD products and the endocannabine system, which is quite a new thing to do with all pain relief. And in our group, we all found that for us, and again, not condoning drugs or anything, we found that the best and most natural way of pain relief for us was either marijuana or CBD products. So that's something I'm looking at deeply. And obviously they use for people with multiple sclerosis, it's routinely prescribed. One of my friends had the degenerative one and died, but he was prescribed marijuana all the way through because it was the only thing that gave him pain relief. And when I was speaking to the doctors, and they were saying, obviously there's risks of paranoia and things like that and mental well-being. And I said, well, for myself, I feel like the effects, one, the painkillers you prescribed to me had a negative effect on me mentally, and two, I feel like the pain is doing me more mental harm than the risks of feeling a little bit paranoid from having a bit of marijuana. So that's that's my personal take on it. But I want to do, it's something I really want to research and gain quite passionate about. I feel like too much medicine is to do with pharmaceutical companies, and doctors get paid to prescribe pharmaceutical goods. So I think the holistic way is the way forward, and I would love to be involved with more research and working with people who are experts in those fields.
That's really interesting. I want to know, Mersa, I want to know your opinion about this because I know you have like relevant studies in this field. What do you think about that and the use of marijuana for pain relief?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Koja, for sharing. We actually have researched and we learn about how marijuana would help conditions, musculoskeletal conditions, and rheumatoid arthritis, for example. There's been a lot of research done on that. But I think for me, I even did a research study on this year, and I think in sciences, something is very reliable clinically when there has been a trial and has been tested out, and it's been tested out on like a population rather than a group of people, and they've seen results. And I think with marijuana, they've done it on rats, and it was very effective, and they've did like very detailed measurements that I don't really want to get into, and it was very effective, but still they don't really say 100%, oh, this is what's very effective, because there aren't data really supporting that clinically. But I don't know, I'm interested as well, to be honest, because I think it's an open door. I think there are a lot of research going on about it. I think it's being investigated much more deeply clinically. I think with what Kojo said, I completely agree, but I think that there are a lot of medications that really have something behind them. So I wouldn't think that like it's merely not like effective, but I feel like yeah, there might be a lot of like other natural things, like for example weed, that are developing in the research field, and people are putting more concentration on them to see what's up, what it does, because I think what a medication, natural or chemical, does to your body is further than an experience, because it can really have effects that may not be seen within a day or two, within months, but it can be seen within generations, it's much more complicated than that. So I feel like clinically, for something to be very reliable, there must be a lot of research done on it, but I think it's a start. It's a good start.
Yeah, I think I agree with you to some point, and I think there's lack of research on the marijuana side, or maybe
Yeah.
that's like compared to other medication, I
Yeah,
wouldn't say, because
definitely.
yeah, there are so many researchers working on it right now and have been working on it for years, but compared to other medication. And I also think there comes a cultural, it has a cultural side to it. Like personally, if let's say I have something's wrong with me, and I will know that I have two options, and one of them could be marijuana, the other one could be some other medication, like pharmaceutical product. I think the cultural side of my mind would make me go for the other medication. I wouldn't go and choose the marijuana. But that's something that I think we have to double think about it. Like, we have to know, what if it is going to work probably as much as the other one, then why not choose that one? And even for like older people, it's, let's say, I will say my mom. If my mom has a joint replacement, and if I tell her, Mom, come and use this and this will help you, she wouldn't accept that. She would say, I don't know, you're crazy. I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? Because now I live in Canada, but and here it's like legal to use that. But let's say for so many other countries and other places where it's illegal, how would you make them realize that, oh, this is good for you and this might actually work? So there's the cultural side to it as well.
I know, but I think it comes from more because you say when you want to choose, you kind of don't go for the marijuana kind of approach. And I think that's very logical. I think it's because there hasn't been really much backup, like very reliable scientific data on it confirming it. I would understand completely, and I agree that a lot of people personally experience a lot of good effects and benefits from marijuana, and that's fine, and that's helpful, and that's helping them. But I feel like for something that we could like kind of prescribe to a general population over the medication that has already been clinically approved, already done a lot of research with multiple positive results on human and on animals. And I think that's an issue. So I think we can't kind of do that for a general public unless we have that reliable sources. But I think, for example, with Kojo's case, I would completely understand because he's not very responding to the typical pain medication, having a side effect, it's not comfortable. And I think then that becomes like the scenario where you're like, okay, do you want to consider, for example, like weed or any other natural substance that could help you relieve your pain? And I think that's justified. But I feel like as a general public approach, I feel like it needs to be very clinically backed up.
Yeah, we're still not there
I
yet.
totally agree. I totally agree. And I think what you're saying about the culture, like, for instance, my next door neighbours, or next door but two, they chucked their daughter out because she smoked marijuana. And I was having a conversation with him, and I was like, and I'm saying, well, I've actually seen these parents be paralytic in my house and have to carry the mother home. And I was saying, so what's the difference between alcohol and marijuana? Like in terms of, it's just that it's in society, it's being said that this is legal and this isn't. And if you go, like if you say, like Rastafarians, for instance, and I'm not talking about people that are making skunk, the chemically made cannabis that's made to make people have different mind things. I'm talking about actual from the plant, the leaves, and people make tea and things like that. So Rastafarians, who it's a religion, everything's about natural, and they call about the herb. And in places in Africa, and if you look at the Red Indians or Eskimos, they use natural things and have been doing for thousands of. In India, they have. Been thousands of years. The sadhus, who are holy men, they all smoke marijuana and do meditation and things. So in different cultures, it's got completely different. Completely different concept, and yet, if you take morphine, which is heroin, well then it's okay to take heroin because the doctors have said it's okay. But heroin is really, really bad for you. But in pain, is really, really good for you. So I just think, there's so much research to be done, and also just being, I research all this stuff myself. I don't like taking paracetamol or things like that. Bruce Lee died. He was so fit that when he's rumoured that when he had a paracetamol, his body rejected it. So for me, I don't like putting anything artificial in my body. I don't like taking vitamin pills or supplements. I prefer to get the goodness from natural food. You know, 𝕃𝕉𝕚, I can get that from boiling up chicken bones and sucking chicken bones and getting the marrow out of it. All your vitamins, if you get the right food, you can get it from there, and that's how I would like to try and be with my body completely. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think it's patient's preference at many points, and I think if it works, then it works. It's the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing that. I had no background about any of that or never heard of it. Um, so that's another reason I'm really happy to be making these rooms, to be able to learn new things every day. So I really appreciate all the time and all the everything that you shared in this room with us. This room has been running for 55 minutes now. I was hoping to keep it an hour-long room. So just one thing Kojo said before that I wanted to just mention. This National Joint Registry website is where you can find information about hospitals and surgeons who perform hip, knee, ankle replacement, and it's a good source of information. It doesn't necessarily tell you for each surgeon how many of their operations needed a revision, but it does give you some information, some statistics about how many hip or knee or ankle replacement one specific surgeon from one clinic has done. So that's a good source of information as well. And we do have another room this week on Thursday at 7 p.m. UK time. So it is about running. Like I said, it is something that surgeons or doctors do not advise people do after hip or knee replacement for some time. So it's nice to discuss that, and especially if Kojo can join us for that room as well, because I know he does run. It's very nice to have him sharing his experience as well with regard to that. We have a few minutes left, and since no one else has joined the room, if you're happy, I am happy to close the room soon. I just wanted to ask if anyone has anything to add in a few minutes, maybe.
I just want to say thank you to you and Kojo and Shakiba for being my friend so I could join this room. It was very good. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I mean, I wasn't talking for most of this room, so thank you very much to Kojo, first of all, and also to Mersa and Shakiba as well. Thanks. So, yeah, definitely.
We'll talk back
Yeah, I
soon
can see Shahov is here
in the other
also.
room.
Shahov, we were talking about just closing this room for today, and we do have another room scheduled for Thursday at I believe it's 7 p.m. UK time. So it'd be great if you can join that as well. So if you have any final words or comments, Shahov, we will hear from you, and then Kojo, and then we say goodbye.
Not very so important comment. Thanks from Kojo that shared his experience, and of course his pain relief experience of marijuana. It was really interesting for me because the use of marijuana in our country, Iran, is very restricted, and it was somehow interesting for me to hear that. And may I ask a final question from you, Shahrzad,
Sure.
from a point of view in engineering? Shakiba some minutes ago talked about the risk factors of this operation, of the joint replacement surgeries. From what I know, from all the factors, from misalignment of the implant or dislocation of it or inflammation and so on, The total risk factor is somehow low. And nowadays, because the experience of the hospitals and the hospital universities are about 60 years of joint replacement surgeries that it's become a very typical surgeries in the orthopedic area. And I want to ask from you, because you are a biomedical engineer and you're, of course, much more expertise and qualified than us, that how much is the total risk factor of this surgery? What do you think about that?
The risk of the surgery is really multifactorial. It's just not one or two things that you can just consider. It's several many things, and it depends on the location and everything as well. So our results from China, for example, is different from the results from the UK, from the US. All of that considered, it is still the benefits of this operation, hip or knee replacement, outweighs the risks very much. Like, the risk of, for example, infection, I don't have the exact figures, but is 1 in 100,000 cases. So when you look at the risks, are all 1 in a million, 1 in 100,000, are such numbers. So that being the case, I can bring a list next time and just explain about what each, for example, infection, how many cases are recorded and what's the percentage of failure of infection. But it's definitely better to go with the surgery if you need one than be worried about the risks and not do it. I hope that makes sense.
Of course, thanks very much for sharing
Definitely.
your
And
experience and
I was
knowledge with
talking
us.
about National Joint Registry website before. It's a joint registry in the UK, so you can get some of that data of what's the percentage of infection, loosening, implant fracture. Yeah, you can find all that information in the National Joint Registry website as well. Yeah, so if you have any other questions, please be in touch with me on Instagram, and I'll try my best to give you an answer. Sure, no
Thanks a
problem.
lot. You helped me a
So with
lot.
that being
Thanks.
said, I can see we have a new member in the audience, Chloe. Thank you so much for joining. But we have been in this room since 5 p.m. UK time, so we were just about to end this room. Thank you so much. Please do follow the club so you know about our new future events and rooms as well. With that being,
Chloe's had a hip replacement, and she's one of my things. But yeah, that's all right. We can. She will.
Hi,
Here she is.
Chloe.
Yeah. Evening, good
Hi, it's nice to
evening
have you
from
here.
London.
Yeah, like I said, I was about to close the room, but no, just let's have another, I don't know, few minutes. Can we know about more about you and your experience, please?
I had my hip replaced about 4 years ago. I'll do it quickly. And I didn't want it done for a very, very long time. I fought it all the way, all the fears in the world. I just caught the end of your conversation there. One of the things that made me made the decision was, once the cartilage had gone, the other bone started to the bone became weak, and the pelvis, I was worried about cysts developing internally. When you break through the bone, it was leaking fluid, and that panicked me. So I thought I should have it done now, but it was a very long process, but to arrive at that goal. But when I did face up to it, I went through, I planned it for 3 months to 6 months. I was just determined, and almost really fought with my leg, really pushed it hard, stretched it, punched it, got it ready to be operated on, and came out an absolute success, actually, because of the state of mind I had. and it's been, to be an athlete, I was a professional dancer, so the whole thing was like a loss of identity. So it was a bit of a crisis for me, because that's how I identified myself, as a physical being. So I felt like I checkmated myself to arrive at such a place at a young age. I was only in my 40s. So yeah, but on the other side, 4 years later, I absolutely adore it. There's no comparison. It's a tree trunk. You have to work at it. You have to keep it how you want it. But that's with any fitness. If you want to be an athlete, you have to work a little bit harder than somebody that just wants to be, well-being. So I don't go back into major things anymore. I just like to feel free to be able to walk and run, and I can run, I can jump, I can dance again, limited. I'm not going to throw my legs around anymore. But I'm 51, so I probably won't want to do that even if I had a hip. But it's been mentally a gift to sort of go through something of such a struggle and then come out the other side and feel blessed to know what it is to not have, 2 legs to walk freely with, and to actually appreciate that just being a human with good health. Actually, it was I took it as a lesson that only a warrior type or an enthusiast would receive in midlife. You have to checkmate yourself first to get that kind of lesson. But yes, that's my little
Beautiful.
experience.
What an inspiration, really. I mean, it's all about the mindset that when you are committed, when you decide that you need to do this, and then you're committed to recovery, that's where I believe the success happens. Of course, there are...
Exactly. And I'm sorry to cut you off. I wanted to add, it's also giving it time, because the Chloe mentioned that she didn't want to do it at first, and after 4 years now, she sees that, okay, that's the reward I'm gonna get. That's what makes me happy, like, about my body, about myself, about my abilities, to go back to the way her life was before. So yeah, that's also, some people don't have the patience. They don't want to wait. They just want results. Like, I'm doing the surgery now, I want to be back on track like in 10 days. That's not gonna happen. But if you give it time, for sure you see the results.
I was concerned about the guarantee very much, and what I was capable of doing afterwards. So I had a really good relationship with my surgeon and a really good relationship with my physio, and I told them everything, including, I don't know, we even had to discuss sex, could we do it or not afterwards, and how. Everything mattered. So it became a really precious thing to have, and I embraced it that way because this was going to set me free again. So it was like having a massive gift and getting a second life.
I just want to come in
Pain-free.
quickly, Chloe. What was the best pain relief option for you?
Oh, did you do that one? Oh yes, I did. Marijuana was my pain-free. It just relaxed everything, and I was allowed to have that freedom from the pain. It was a definite thing. I could go till 6 p.m. and then, medicate myself, and I would be relaxed again. And yeah, I'm quite interested
Wonderful.
in that scientifically.
Yeah, we were discussing that a few minutes before. Yeah, it's good to hear like the experiences that people have. It's interesting to me. I didn't know, and
Because it's when you've
yeah,
actually got people that have had hip replacements, like all the
yeah,
experts in it haven't had a hip replacement, so I'm not saying they don't know what they're talking about, but we've tried everything. When you're going through
yeah.
that pain, you try absolutely everything. You burn yourself I had burn marks from a hot water bottle because the pain of burning myself with a hot water bottle was less than the pain of the hip. So
Yeah.
you will do anything, and yeah, you will find what works. And we, 3 out of the 4 of us, found that worked the best, and we tried everything.
Wow. I'm glad. I'm really glad.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you
It's good
so
to
much
know.
for sharing that. Because like I said, I had no idea. But yeah, thank you so much, Chloe, for sharing that.
Pleasure. Talk about it all day.
Yeah, we literally do. Myself, Chloe, when we speak on the phone, we will talk about hip replacements for hours.
It's the magic of discovering somebody. You know, the journeys are very similar, and you think you're very isolated, and actually, what happens once you start to share it is the subject of pain comes up, and then a whole box opens, and then we wonder whether, you know, how to have that relationship with pain, or what does it mean to go through an experience. And it's a test of character, I would say, because I took it as a reward for my character. In the end, I managed to turn that in my imagination, and I thought, well, I wouldn't have arrived here if I wasn't fabulous in the first place, so I must carry on in this manner, and face up to it, and take this surgeon as if these people are going to just intervene for a minute. So I'm already running into the hospital, and I'm going to run out. I'm not going to think, oh, my life is over, help. I'm just coming in for a quick in out, because initially the pain of the hip was all over my body. It was mental. It was hurting my arms and my shoulders, and my forehead was crunched up. So I had to sort of separate it again and say, well, how big a percent of it is it to my body? You know, how important is this hip? It's a smaller part than I think, actually. There's a lot more to me than just my hip. So, but because of pain will spread. It
Sorry to
spreads
interrupt
into
you.
your
I'm
life.
gonna have to leave. I've got something in 3-4 minutes. So I'm going to leave at this point. I will try and jump in the room at some point on Thursday before. Oh yeah, we're not doing our room on Thursday, so I probably will be able to
Wednesday.
come in. Okay, and I'll speak to you tomorrow, Chloe. I'm having
Thank
to
you so
rush.
much for your time.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for the
Bye.
Kojo.
pleasure.
Thank you for
Okay,
sharing.
Kojo. Have
Yes,
fun.
you were saying, Chloe.
Where was I? Just got distracted
You were
with that.
saying that the pain spreads, I guess?
Yeah, it was spreading like it taken over my social life. It was taking over my happiness. It was taking over my job. It had taken over everything, all my identity, my relationships, and so it was a big thing. Because as things crumble around you, you try and protect yourself, and you lie a little bit. You sort of say, "No, I'm fine." You know, you don't want to make people miserable. So it becomes even worse when it's like that, because it becomes then the personal crisis that you're in, and you have
Yeah.
to fix it to belong to the tribe again, because you're not really that welcome as a crippled being. And that was an issue for me. Well, it was very noticeable, because I'd been a kind of shiny, you know, I was working dancer, actress, so I had attention for being fabulous and being talented. So to become crippled was very noticeable with my peers, how much
Yeah, for
I was
sure.
valued. So I was aware of that. So the lying began. I started putting a face on and lying through the pain. So that's why it went on, because actually at the end you have to deal with that and forget people. You have to cut yourself off and deal with your own struggle and make it smaller than it is, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Because the pain is not just a pain you're you know, going through. It becomes a part of you as a person. It becomes a part of your life, and it affects everything.
It
Like you
changes
said,
your
your work,
purpose.
your
It
mood.
changes your you
Exactly.
negotiate. So you wouldn't normally you'd say, oh, I need to go and get a new pair of shoes. So you just go to the shop and get a new pair of shoes. But actually, when you have a pain, you think, I need a new pair of shoes. I don't want to go to the shop.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go on Friday when I have to do 5 other things, and just try and do that all in an hour. So you start to stop doing things. I won't bother. I'll order it online, and any excuse. And eventually you see yourself do this. You see yourself go out and look for a chair. I'm not going out to see my friends. I'm just looking for a chair, and I'm trying to smile over the top of
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pain. That's what pain does. We're embarrassed of pain. It's like a big dirty word. Nobody really wants to talk about it. So it's quite hard if you have a life that you want to stay with. You want people to stay around you as well. You don't want to be
For
miserable.
sure.
So I would nip it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm due another hip, so I'm quite happy for the second hip. It's total different attitude. I want to be, just check the surgeon and the system again and make sure I've got what I want, because I didn't have mine glued in. It's porous and the bone grows in, so I want another one of those. And
Yeah.
and it would be a different approach. I actually don't feel the pain of this one unless it's really bad.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned that
Wow.
this one was not cemented and it is a porous stem that they used. Uh, does the
Yeah.
surgeon talk about that before the operation and explains why they are going to choose this system? Mhm.
I asked all the questions about the cement and
Mhm.
everything. No, it wasn't volunteered. I didn't find that there
Okay.
was very much information volunteered. It just seems that they assume we wouldn't understand, or there was too much explaining to do or something. So I came with questions. I wanted to know if it was going to be cemented. I didn't want it going in from the back. I knew that you could get one from the front, which I had. And I wanted to know how long it was going to last and why there's only a 15 or 10-year guarantee on them, and why you were only guaranteeing me to sit down and be pain-free. And then I understood that everything else is my job, actually. The surgeon can only cut and replace with this metal. He can't actually do any of the healing. All of that's my responsibility. So it's just a big thing to take on, and it's accepting it as well as, wow, this has happened to me, and not to feel, I mean, you do feel sorry for yourself, but not to try and think, well, actually, I've worn it out, and most, you've worn it before your lifetime. You've worn it out before the end of your life. So it's a blessing, because these things could kill you. If you carried on in that pain, you would get sick and just die of something else. It would be unbearable in the end to have arthritis to that degree that in your 40s and you couldn't come out of that. It's like being imprisoned in a body. So it's a blessing to have the intervention, really.
Yes, definitely. And what you mentioned about the
Wow.
information will not be offered to you. You have to dig and ask for information and keep asking until you're satisfied that this is the best option for you. That is really brilliant mindset, the brilliant thing that you did, that some people don't really do, and they don't know what they're signing up for and what they're going. Mhm.
But you're not encouraged to ask questions, because I did ask a few times at the beginning. I started with the doctor and then a surgeon, and then I was offered antidepressants 3 times because they thought I was overly stressed. And I kept saying, I need answers. I'm a dancer. I have to understand everything. And I'm not stressed. I'm not depressed. I'm exhausted, which is different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't necessarily that easy to get answers until I went to the right surgeon. And then it was the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital. And that's where I found all my willing people that wanted results from their patients. It matters that we give good results back to that hospital. Maybe that was I don't know what the difference was, but they seemed to have time for us there. And so it was a journey. It was about preparing for the operation, and then definitely afterwards to slow down and not go too fast. When the bone has to grow back into the metal, obviously it has to, into the titanium, it has to yeah, that takes time, doesn't it? And all the capsule has to heal. So I didn't want anything to be loose. And there's a timeline for that. It's apparently 3 months for all those tendons to heal, I was told. So it doesn't matter even if I feel good, I shouldn't really be jumping around too much until that's healed. And I kind of thought, well, if that heals properly, then I'm good to go for 20 years, 30 years. Why do I need a replacement? Apparently they get loose and it starts to hurt, and the cement can move around the body a bit, or apparently gives an irritation. So that's what I think about when it comes to maintaining it. I think don't do anything that would shatter it, should I say. I don't need to shatter it.
Exactly. What a story. And that's why we need rooms like this, so that people can join, and we really want to hear about their experiences, because if somebody hasn't done this before, they have no idea what a person who has goes through. And even the doctors or surgeons, they don't know, they're never on the other side as being the patient and facing the issues that comes with this. So I'm glad we had this room, Shahrzad. Thank you for creating this one, and thanks for everybody who joined. And Chloe, I know we didn't have you from the beginning of the room, but I'm so glad you could share with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I got a little message from Kojo saying, come and join this room. They're doing hips and knees, so I
that's brilliant.
came as soon as I could.
I
Thank
will
you
thank
so
Kojo as well
much.
later. I'll DM him for inviting you over, because yes, it was a very, very good environment to share what everyone went through, and basically what's happening with hip replacement, really, from your perspective, who has been through this. So thank you so much for joining us in the end. We did use some of your experience as well for, I don't know, has it been like 20 minutes maybe now? So thank you so much for sharing.
I should come again on another time. It's good to talk to the other side, actually, and the technical side too. Yeah, you're right about sharing the information. There is a little line between the physio, the surgeons, and the patients, actually, of nervousness, and nobody knows who knows what already. So that's very
Thank
good.
you. And
Thank you for
I
having me.
did announce this
Thank
previously.
you.
You were not in the room, I don't think. We do have another room on Thursday at 7 p.m. It's more about the sports and running specifically. So if you are interested at all, please do join the other room as well, or follow this club, Hip and Knee Replacement, and then you would know when the room starts. So yeah, just thank you again for joining today. Bye.
Thank you.